Bom, bom. There are some Kickstarter decks that you somehow that become iconic, I think. At least to a certain group of us. And this is one. So this is the Tarot of the Divine Masculine, which is a deck that was funded last year. And it was a real fascinator. And this came in earlier, and I was working, and I wanted to do sort of an actual unboxing situation. It came in a giant envelope, so it's not really an unboxing. But I had work to do, and so I couldn't look at it. So it's just been sitting here taunting me. So yeah, this is a deck that I was asked to showcase some prototypes of prior to the Kickstarter, and so I still have the prototype cards. And I liked it a lot. I thought the art was beautiful, and I thought that it showed some diversity, body diversity, ethnic diversity, etc. And I was interested in the idea of a divine masculine deck. I don't reach for themed decks very often. And like the Dark Goddess, for example, I frequently feel like, oh, well, that's a cool idea, but I don't really work with themed decks because it's just a weird thing for me. Not that the Dark Goddess deck is weird, and actually, in fact, it was given to me and I love it. But it's an interesting thing, something that focuses on gender in this way was a thing I didn't know how I felt about. But I did showcase the deck, and I did become kind of a pusher of its Kickstarter. It was a little slow to fund. And that makes sense. It's a niche within a niche, of course. But what I got from the prototype and what I'm interested in seeing in the actual deck is whether it really, truly will make people, queer men in particular, feel seen. And I think that there's something... I can only speak to my experience in the United States. I think that there's some very complicated psychology at play with queer men in the United States. And, as a gay man, I can say that I see all kinds of problematic tendencies. There's a huge amount of misogyny. There's a huge amount of racism. There's a huge amount of fat shaming in gay culture, in gay male culture. And when I see decks that are geared to queer men, they are almost always hypersexualized. The bodies are jacked beyond what's human, and everyone has a big old dick, and it's, that's certainly a part of our lives. It's certainly a part of, living is sexuality, but it is so hypersexualized and so focused on a particular kind of what is sexy, that it frustrates me, and I find it really off-putting. I think that everyone lives in their skin, and that skin is beautiful regardless. But I think in gay culture, there's certainly a tendency to really absolutely negate the bodies of men who are not fit, who don't have gym bodies. And those gym bodies are beautiful, but so are others. So I really didn't want to involve myself with a deck that was focused purely on that. But from what I could see from the handful of cards they sent, that there was going to at least be some body representation. I would wager, but we'll see, whether there's any disabled representation. But I did see body representation, and I saw diversity. So I said, okay, this is closer to anything related to a tarot deck for men or about divine masculinity at the time that this came out or was funding. And so I will, sort of put my name on it as something that I'm backing, and that I will publicly ask others to encourage others to back. And I did. And so now it's here. And in a weird way, I'm kind of nervous because, what are we going to expect? But the first thing we can see is that it's gorgeous. I mean, the whole pairing. So this is the deck and the book. This book, which is what we're going to start with, is so beautifully bound. Just absolutely you know, for a guidebook, sort of breathtaking. And the art is so breathtaking, you know, the paintings are so beautiful that it certainly deserves a showcase like this. I need my X-Acto knife, but I haven't reached for my X-Acto knife. I've reached for some damn scissors. Yes, I have Stevie Wonder's Christmas song stuck in my head because actually I love Stevie Wonder and I kind of love that song. Oh, plastic. What a cool texture. I mean, it's got sort of like it's a hardcover book, but there's like this pillow sort of and binding that's just so really delightful to touch. It's very tactile. And it's beautiful glossy paper. And there's a table of contents, obviously, forward on painting a tarot, introduction. It goes through the cards. And then there's an epilogue. And I will likely come back after I've read the book, potentially, and talk more about it. But you can see how beautiful the paintings are. This is the Fool. So I'm not actually going to go through the book right now because I want to actually see the cards. So again, lovely packaging for the boxy poo. Plastic everywhere. Let's put the lid on this so I don't cut myself, which you know I'm capable of. Yoink. Alright. So, Vasek and Vasek, I believe they are cousins. Mythical tarot cards handcrafted out of magic and timeless art for the modern tarot reader. A powerful companion for your journey of self-discovery, told by an intriguing web of symbols, characters, and their stories. An elegant deck with an uncommon approach to details, carefully elaborate, painted in oil, and printed in gold. 78 full-color tarot cards on thick matte finished stock, and an illustrated 48-page guidebook for immediate reading. So, beautiful box. Here's the little guidebook. So it's literally a little white book. And here are the cards. So the stock for the prototype was beautiful, and it appears to feel the same. So I hope it is the same. It looks like it. Might be a little thicker. So we have an art card with some patrons listed who supported the project at the top level. And now we can walk through the deck. So let us zoomify. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm just gonna, it's like, walkthroughs are always like, let's describe all the details in the card. Like, that's not how I do my walkthroughs. I just sort of like to share immediate reactions. This is one of the cards that was in the prototype, so I don't have an immediate reaction to it because I've already seen it, but I like it. There's something very vulnerable and sort of gentle about the card. It sort of has the Rider-Waite-Smith sort of freedom, but there's also a little something, what's going on with this person out in the middle of the woods. So I like that. There is some gold stamping on the cards, which there is this, I have to read the book, but there is sort of symbols associated with them. Whoops. This is the beautiful back, which I love. I think that's gorge. Here we have the Magician. This was another one that was in the prototype. Now, one thing that caused me some frustration, not so much with the creators, but with the situation, is that they did change a few cards because folks felt that there was too much nudity. And actually, this is one of them. So in the prototype, and I'm only feeling comfortable sharing this because I already had it on the video I made promoting the deck, the magician was naked. Now, I think, again, one of the things, certainly in the United States, that's an issue, is that Americans have the creators are not American, but we have very difficult relationships with our bodies, and the desire to cover them in a tarot deck, even, to me, is just another, so there was pressure on the creators to denudify some of the cards, which I support the creators doing whatever they want to do with their deck. I don't support someone saying, well, that nudity is offensive to me, so you should cover it. That, to me, is fucked up. Still, a beautiful card. I mean, these oil paintings are gorgeous. So there's no High Priestess in this deck because it is a Divine Masculine, so they changed this card to Intuition. Again, this was another one that was in the prototype, and it doesn't look like it's been changed. The Protector instead of the Emperor. Oh, there's the... Oh! So it's the Fooled Magician. Oh, so Intuition and then the Protector instead of the Empress. And then we have the Emperor. Now, it's going to make people feel some sort of way to revise out the High Priestess and the Empress, but remember, the focus of this deck is on this idea of the Divine Masculine. However you define masculinity, it's focused on male and male-identifying bodies. Here's an example, again, of body diversity. This is not a thin, ripped emperor. He's got a belly and some titties, and I'm like, good. This is what bodies look like. Thank you. This is the Hierophant. Sort of a Socrates kind of situation, it feels like. The Lovers. It's always tough doing a reactions video because I'm so far from the cards, but what's great too is that you're going to notice that this is not a deck exclusively of men or male-appearing, male-presenting bodies. There are feminine or female-presenting bodies as well. And I think that it's important, and one of the reasons why I think that a deck like this can be necessary is that we have, gender is such a construct in so many ways, and we are, there's like that phrase, like, gender is a cage. That's true, but we still live with that cage. And so one thing that people, can and should do is explore the continuum of gender. And so, this card, for example, does seem to have a female presenting person on it, who could very well not be. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, is that the embodiment of gender is different than the experience of it. And for someone who has a body, their gender is what they're telling us it is, so it's a beautiful Chariot. This may have been another one that was sort of, I feel like I remember seeing this one. I really could do this later, but I'm not gonna, because it's my video. So take that. No, maybe I made that up. Strength. Really beautiful. This Hermit I find really breathtaking. Just this painting. The paintings in this deck are so fucking beautiful. Like, oh my Christ, they're just exquisite. Even as an art deck, this is gorgeous, but I think this could be very readable. The Wheel of Fortune, this is a beautiful Wheel of Fortune. It's a nice interpretation. Wheels of Fortune are frequently my least favorite cards in decks. This is a card that has been changed, and I'm really not happy with it. Again, originally there was an exposed penis here, and it was actually one of the reasons why I backed the deck, because I loved the idea of someone being able to see a man with breasts or a woman with breasts and a penis. This sort of, I'm really, really sad that, I had a feeling it would be, but I was hoping that they wouldn't, or that they would have an option, because it really was one of the reasons I backed the deck. For someone, for a woman with a penis or a man with breasts to, or someone non-binary to see themselves in the Justice card. What a powerful thing. So, I mean, I really hope if they ever do another printing of this deck, they restore their original intention. Because, to me, it was such a powerful card. So I'm sad. I understand why. I don't fault them. But I think it's fucked up that people complained about that. They're, like, that's missing the whole point of this beautiful deck. This death card is great. I love the richness of the colors. This is a very sweet temperance card. This devil, this is one I've seen before too, and I just love the comet. I love that it's not a traditional devil card, because the devil is a card that I interpret a lot of different ways depending on the context. And often there's a quality of the devil of reaching back into your sort of primal self. So I like when the devil isn't super traditional. It's the tower, you know, and it's a very phallic tower. And this is the thing that gets me. It's like this, like, I don't need this, something this literal for the devil for the tower to represent something phallic. On the other hand, how gorgeous would it have been, you know, for Justice to have been naked? You know, it's just, it's such a thing for me, you know, and I would never have known if I hadn't been asked to look at the prototype. But I can't unsee what I saw. And what I saw was such a beautiful card. The star. Stars are always interesting in decks. I feel like no one really knows what the star means in a way to make them paintable or dry. You know, it's interesting. There's very few star cards that I go, wow, it's a great moon. The sun. Judgment. I mean, you can't deny that this is gorgeous artwork at all. The cardstock is really lovely. It does have that soft touch. It's edged in black, which I love. It's like the quality is exceptional, and they really worked hard on that. So here we get into the Suit of Cups. It's a beautiful ace. The Two of Cups. Again, you see, this isn't. It doesn't exclude female presenting bodies. It's just focused on male ones. Again, more here. I think they've also done a nice job too of making something timeless. There are modern touches, but there's also this sort of timeless quality that I think, you know, I struggle. There are a handful of modern decks that have motorcycles and cars and skateboards, and there are some that I really love and use. The ones that I tend to reach for most have a timelessness to them. There's the Eight of Cups. 9. Again, you know, another real body. And the 10. This looks like the Fool, which is an interesting thing. I am curious to read the guidebook. Here we have the Page of Cups. The Knight of Cups. The Keeper of Cups. Great. And the King. So far I'm really liking it, and my problem, you know, really has more to do with, you know, pushing an artist to erase something completely inoffensive because you don't understand it. Obviously that's an editorial you. So we're in Pentacles now. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of shirtlessness in it, but, you know, it's like... Another thing I'll say, too, that I'm responding to is that these bodies that are larger are not being used for comedy. You know, they're integrated into the deck as valid. And again, I think that's a really important thing. And I remember expressing to the creator when they reached out, I said, you know, I'm happy to look at this. I'm going to be honest in my assessment. And here's the thing I'm worried about. And he said, I hear that. So, and, you know, again, I feel like they... you know, they didn't show me all the cards, so I only had what was here, but I saw enough that I felt like, okay, the Nine of Pentacles is frequently a card that I like. This must have been adjusted. I don't have a prototype of this one, but this sort of, the sheet wrapped around, you know, just sort of appears kind of, you know, tacked on, but... Oh, this is interesting. I need to look at this one closer. This is like the only card in the deck so far that I'm like, I don't know. It just has sort of a weird coloration to it. So it doesn't quite fit somehow. Maybe because the color palette is so different. So here we have the Page of Pentacles, the Knight, the Keeper, and the King. In a weird way, I almost wish they had kept Queen, but it doesn't matter. I understand why they did what they did, certainly. And maybe, you know, making it Queen makes it sort of a joke. Here we have the very subtle Ace of Wands. 2. The 3. 4 of Wands. 5. 6. 7. This is another one that was in the prototype. 8. 9. 10. And then we have the Page. This was in the prototype too, and I remember finding it really sexy. Knights generally are, aren't they? Keeper. And King. An interesting thing too is that I don't think this is, you know, I've talked about this mostly from a gay man's perspective, from a queer perspective. I don't think that's necessarily the intended audience either. I think it is everyone. And I think that engaging it could certainly, you know, again, sort of explore that continuum of what being a man is, or being a male is, or what the divine masculine is, and how it's more than one thing, and it's not a binary. You know, it is all shades of masculinity, which includes female bodies. You know, it's a thing that is more than just an idea of masculinity. And I think today, you know, the world is struggling with that still. And I think something like this could, in fact, help people explore those things. Even if there are things in this deck you don't like engaging with them and exploring why you don't like them is interesting, you know. Engaging with things that you don't like or don't understand are a good thing to do. I'm very thankful that this Three of Swords, though it has a sort of mournful element to it, does not have that heart with the Three Swords. There's the Four of Swords. The 5. 6. 7. This is another one that was in the prototype. Love the Sky. 8. Interesting. 9. 10? Huh. And then we have the page. The knight. The keeper. And the king. So them's the cards. So overall, you know, I feel fairly positive about this. I think that, first of all, it's gorgeous. I mean, there's no denying that it's breathtaking. I think they did a beautiful job with the production. I think they did a beautiful job with the packaging. They clearly did a beautiful job with the book. I'm tempted to not shuffle it because I want to sort of look at it in order. This is the thing with like this, you know, lovely cardstock, is that it's so thick that it actually is hard to shuffle. Not in the sense that it won't riffle, in the sense that I have small hands and it's hard to get my hands around it, as it were. You know, you can see me struggling a little bit, but it does actually shuffle nicely when you do. So if you have larger hands than I do, you know, you might be just fine. It's not sticky the way that some of these sort of soft touch stocks can be. It's sort of slides really well. It bends nicely. I do find overhanding decks like this that there is a little bit more sort of grip in the stock, but it does shuffle really nicely. I guess since I have shuffled, we can lay some out and just sort of see what it looks like. I mean, the question becomes, will I use this? And that's a question for every deck, isn't it? Will I actually use it? I don't see why not. I don't think that this is the first thing I'm going to reach for client reading. You know, unless it was requested, in which case I certainly would do that. I mean, it looks gorgeous, and I can read the titles, which is another thing. You know, because most of my videos are done most of my readings are done on video, I'm always, you know, about 3 feet away from the cards. I can see what I'm looking at. It's just so rich and beautiful. I don't use tarot for anything other than readings. I am more now than ever sort of a fortune teller, I guess. And so I don't do path working, I don't do journaling, I don't sort of do intention setting. And so I don't see myself doing sort of divine masculine work, so to speak. And in that way, you know, I would say, and I don't read for myself that much either. So I don't know that it's going to be like a deck I use all the time. It is absolutely a deck I will use. Is it perfect? No. Are there... In a weird way, it's sort of like the things that they covered are the things that I feel like should have been left uncovered, and then there's opportunity, I think, to put some shirts on people in some case. You know what I mean? But that's just taste. It's adding itself to a difficult and long conversation about gender in the world. And so from that regard, I would actually be curious to hear what non-binary folks would say about a deck like this. For example, or a trans man. Do they feel seen? A trans woman, I'm looking at this through the perspective of a cis white gay man. And so I'm giving you that reaction. But with a deck that is intended, I think, to make people feel seen, is it successful in that way? And that's a question I can't personally answer for anyone. But I am curious, as these start arriving in people's hands, whether that is the case, But objectively, it's gorgeous. So it's curious. This is one I'd like to sort of revisit. I want to read this beautiful book and just get a sense, a bit more of the intent and what they say about the cards. They do have sort of like a keyword with the phrases like balancing on the rock for the Two of Pentacles. Creation has begun from the... And let me just read an example. So this is the Three of Pentacles. Creation has begun. In the artist's studio in the Mountain Palace, children have gathered to watch the sculptor craft a self-portrait in marble. Behind the group is an arch symbolizing an initiation, new opening, or path. The sculptor passes his skill to the students, but also fresh ideas flow from the students to the master. Each person has an important role in a team and can create something much bigger than if they work alone. The scene is assigned to collaborate with others and value different ideas and levels of experience and collaboration. You have the skill and resources. So it's, it's pretty standard fare in terms of describing the card meanings. But they do give us some sense of what the intent is, what the artistic intent is for a lot of the cards. And then there's like a little poem for the majors. So for death, it says, in the darkest of nights I hold a rose, I carry a scythe, and feel all merry and blithe. And then it describes the picture. A handsome warrior dressed in luxurious, shiny armor leans against a dry old tree. The evening breeze gently moves his white hair, as if wanting to caress his face. A powerful weapon rests on his shoulder, and yet he holds what seems to be a rose, a symbol of purity and promise. Is he smelling it? A murder of crows feasts upon some unfortunate traveler. Two kittens playing next to the warrior's feet. So, it's also gorgeous to see the cards this large. These are certainly, every card is depicted in full, representation. It doesn't mention the Fool and the Ten of Cups. So, yeah, it's gorgeous. It is beautiful. And I can definitely see working with it. And I'm sure it'll show up on my Instagram from time to time. Yeah, those are my first impressions. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed this. This is the gorgeous Tarot of the Divine Masculine by, they don't even have their names on it. Vasic and Vasic, those are their last names. Philip and Marco Vasic. So, gorgeous work. And we'll see as time goes on how it sort of comes to be received and experienced. So, take care. Have a great new year. If I don't make it, I'll be making more videos. But if you watch this, have a great year. Bye.